What started out as a buzzworthy idea that had social media and sports circles talking seems to be quickly losing steam. The proposed boxing match between Anthony Joshua, the former heavyweight world champion, and Jake Paul, the YouTuber-turned-boxer and internet personality, initially caught the public's imagination. It felt like the kind of fight that would generate headlines, draw millions of eyes, and spark endless debate. And with influential Saudi sports chairman Turki Al-Sheikh publicly backing the idea, it seemed like this unlikely bout might actually happen. But the more serious voices in boxing, the ones who care deeply about the sport's integrity and safety, are pushing back hard. Comments made by Anthony Joshua's trainer Ben Davison and his longtime promoter Eddie Hearn have taken the conversation in a completely different direction, one rooted in concern, realism, and responsibility. Ben Davison, speaking to Boxing Scene, didn't hold back when asked about the possibility of this fight. His words were not just dismissive, they were firm and filled with worry. He asked how people could even entertain the idea of putting Jake Paul in the ring with Anthony Joshua. According to Davison, the difference in skill, experience, and sheer physicality makes it not just a mismatch, but a potential health risk. He warned, in very clear terms, that Jake Paul could be seriously hurt if such a bout were ever sanctioned. Davison's concern stems from Jake Paul's fight history, which includes 0 bouts against active, top-tier professional boxers. Paul has mostly built his boxing career by fighting retired athletes, influencers, or older MMA fighters. None of those experiences remotely compare to facing someone like Joshua, who has faced and beaten some of the best heavyweights of his generation. Davison went a step further by raising a red flag about the consequences of allowing such fights to go forward. He suggested that sanctioning bodies and promoters need to seriously consider the long-term implications. In his eyes, boxing is already a dangerous enough sport, and placing an inexperienced fighter against a seasoned, hard-hitting world champion crosses a line. He believes it could take a catastrophic incident, a tragedy inside the ring, for the sport to wake up and realize it's allowing spectacle to trump safety. His comments were not just a critique of Jake Paul's abilities, but a warning to those who are willing to blur the lines between entertainment and legitimate competition just to sell tickets or attract views. Davison is essentially saying, just because something can go viral doesn't mean it should happen. Eddie Hearn, who has managed much of Anthony Joshua's career and knows the business side of boxing better than most, also weighed in. While Davison focused on the danger of the fight, Hearn shed light on the financial and negotiation realities. In an interview with Boxing Social, he revealed that Jake Paul was reportedly asking for a staggering $40 million to even consider getting in the ring with Joshua. Hearn was blunt in calling this demand unrealistic, indicating that such a figure doesn't reflect any genuine intention from Paul to actually take the fight. Hearn went further, questioning whether Paul truly wants the fight at all, or if he's just using the conversation to keep his name in headlines. According to Hearn, Jake Paul doesn't want the real smoke, because if he did, he'd be more grounded in his demands and more willing to test himself against actual fighters. Hearn didn't stop there. He compared the hypothetical Joshua versus Paul fight to other recent crossover fights and made it clear that Paul wouldn't even be able to hold his own against someone like Francis Ngannou, the former UFC heavyweight champion who has just recently stepped into boxing. Hearn's point was that if Jake Paul can't survive against someone like Ngannou, who is still transitioning into boxing, then fighting a highly experienced, athletic, and powerful boxer like Anthony Joshua isn't just a bad idea, it's ludicrous. It would not be a competitive match, it would be a beatdown waiting to happen. Hearn's comments echoed Davison's, but added a layer of business realism that suggested the fight may be nothing more than a publicity stunt on Paul's side. Many fans and pundits in the boxing world share these concerns. While Jake Paul has undoubtedly brought new viewers to the sport and has earned some respect for taking his training seriously, the reality is that there's a massive difference between the kind of competition he's faced and the world-class fighters competing at the top of the heavyweight division. Stepping in the ring with someone like Anthony Joshua isn't the same as going toe-to-toe with a retired MMA fighter or fellow influencer. It's not just a different level, it's a different world entirely. The gap in skill, experience, and physical danger is enormous. As entertaining as the idea might seem on paper, the actual execution could end in disaster, both for Paul and the sport's credibility. For now, with both Davison and Hearn making their positions crystal clear, the possibility of this fight happening seems more like a fantasy than a real plan. The hype may have been fueled by social media buzz and high-profile names, but reality has a way of catching up. As the voices of reason grow louder, it becomes clearer that this proposed fight might remain just that, a proposal. While boxing does sometimes embrace the circus for the sake of entertainment, there are lines that shouldn't be crossed. And in this case, the sports veterans are drawing that line firmly in the sand. The conversation surrounding Jake Paul's place in professional boxing is nothing new. Ever since he entered the ring in 2020, critics have questioned whether his presence is helping or hurting the sport. On one hand, there's no denying that he's brought a fresh audience. Millions of younger fans who may have never watched boxing before are now tuning in to see what he does next. His events often trend on social media and rake in millions in pay-per-view sales. But on the other hand, boxing purists argue that this surge in popularity comes at a cost. It distorts the true nature of the sport, prioritizing entertainment and celebrity status over merit, experience, and skill. Still, Jake Paul has managed to carve out a space for himself. He's trained seriously, hired respected coaches, and taken risks by fighting real opponents, albeit carefully selected ones. But challenging Anthony Joshua represents a whole different level, one that would require more than hype or marketing genius. Joshua is a former unified world champion who's fought the best of the best in heavyweight boxing. He's dealt with pressure, adversity, and brutal opposition. Stepping into the same ring as him without comparable credentials isn't brave, it's reckless. That's the core of Ben Davison's concern. Boxing is not a game. One wrong matchup can lead to irreversible consequences. Moreover, sanctioning such a fight could tarnish the credibility of the sport's governing bodies. If commissions allow a fight between an inexperienced, lighter, and significantly less skilled boxer like Jake Paul and a dominant heavyweight like Joshua, what message does that send to aspiring fighters climbing the ranks the hard way? Many spend years working through amateur circuits, regional bouts, and grueling training camps just to earn a title shot. Allowing a social media star to bypass that system purely because of fame and financial pull undermines everything